this point, Jeffrey reveals why he really invited her to the house, and it wasn't for a party. So, the latest story time. In 1978, 16-year-old Bridget was waiting outside in Ohio for her prom date. She was going to prom with a guy named Jeffrey. She wasn't very excited, as Jeffrey was really nervous around girls, and she felt like the whole night was going to be really awkward. So Bridget reluctantly agreed to go with Jeffrey, as he was the only guy that actually asked her to prom. As soon as Jeffrey arrived, Bridget was immediately disappointed. Jeffrey had turned up in a very unusual vest, rather than the usual tuxedo that she was expecting him to arrive to prom. Jeffrey was unusually nervous, so nervous his hands were uncontrollably shaking and he was unable to pin the corset to Bridget's dress. Bridget's mum had actually had to come outside and put the corset on for her. So they headed off in Jeffrey's car. Upon arriving, they go in and Bridget wants to go over to her friends on the dance floor just to try and lighten the mood. She wasn't really enjoying herself. It was really awkward, really uncomfortable. And she honestly just didn't know what to do. It was very clear from the way Jeffrey was behaving that he was so uncomfortable around people and hated being at prom. Bridget picked up on how awkward and uncomfortable Jeffrey felt, and she suggested if they want to go and get food, sit down at the table for a little bit. He looked immediately relieved and said yes. So they head off the dance floor and over to the seated area. The gentleman pulls out the chair, lets Bridget sit down and tucks it in under the table. Immediately just walks off, no explanation, no nothing. A really long amount of time had passed, and Bridget was getting a little bit worried. She'd assumed he'd gone to the bathroom, but given the time that had gone past, she knew that wasn't possible at this point. She has a look around the building, the accessible parts that she could, and couldn't find Jeffrey anywhere. She has a thought and thinks, you know what, I'll head out to the car lot and see whether his car's there. She heads out, his vehicle's there, so she's like, okay, he's got to be here somewhere. So she turns around and then sees Jeffrey sitting on a curb, just munching on cheeseburgers. And obviously it's a bit of an unusual thing to be doing. But anyhow, she sits down and she asks him, what's up, why are you out here? He's just like, I was going to sit and wait out here until you were finished. As they've left prom, once you're out the building, that's it, night over, not allowed back in. At this point, Jeffrey apologises that she hasn't had a very nice evening and drives her home. Bridget only ever seen Jeffrey one more time after this evening, and it was a few days later. He called her and said he was having a house party and invited her over. She felt really uncomfortable and awkward but didn't want to upset him by saying no. So she reluctantly agreed to go. She heads over to the house and arrives. There's no food, no drinks, no music. So obviously it's a bit alarming straight away. She walks into the living area and there's only 3 people in the house. And it wasn't for a party. He'd arranged a séance with himself and a few other children, as he wanted to talk to the dead and the devil. At this point, Bridget's highly alarmed. She's terrified. She doesn't know what to do. So she rushes out the house and leaves. And doesn't look back. Doesn't think about this night again. After this, she didn't see Jeffrey again. Well, that is until 13 years later when she was reading a local newspaper. So it's now July 22nd, 1991. And the newspaper article read that police found a man named Tracy Edwards running down the road in handcuffs. They'd run over to him and asked what was going on, and he'd informed them that he'd been held hostage in somebody's apartment. The police go to the apartment where he claimed to be held hostage, knock on the door, and this large man opens the door. And he seems quite friendly, approachable, and he's gabbing away to the police. And for the first part of the conversation, they were buying a story. He'd made out that Tracy was one of his good close friends, had had a falling out, everything was fine, he's just been dramatic. And they were about to leave until the second police officer then had a look around, just a little nosy to see what was going on, and looked behind Jeffrey. And he noticed on the coffee table some very, very disturbing photographical images. They immediately arrest Jeffrey, no questions asked. He's taken into custody and a search team sent to the property. And what unfolded from there was just a house of horrors. The things that they found in the freezers, the fridges, the cooking pots, and also his bedroom. I can't actually say inside out, but basically it was parts of things, people. So it turned out that the guy Bridget had innocently gone on no other than Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, holy crap. Just days after this photograph was taken of both of them, outside their house, ready for prom, was the first day that he would start his spree, which spread over 13 years and included 17 victims.